Thank you all. And these are the mini faces of me, I guess. I gotta do a better job finding what photos are online. So today we're gonna talk about why loyalty matters for convenience stores. And I have spent my career now working across a wide range of industries on helping businesses identify who their best customers are, build deeper relationships with those customers, and ultimately the goal is to get those customers to spend more money, come back more often, spend more money. And that was a question over here before. That is indeed the goal of what we're talking about, in no uncertain terms. Now, in order to do that, we've worked with thousands of businesses across 20 different industries at Thanx, capturing data about customers and helping them understand who those VIPs are. And so a lot of the insights I'm going to share today are across that experience. We're going to focus today on the opportunity around loyalty in the convenience world, what developing a C-store loyalty program looks like, both examples of success and some just kind of strategic thoughts on if you're building from scratch or if you're editing yours. What's going to be a definition of a winning program? And then I'll leave you with a couple words of wisdom that we've seen. I have written down some of the questions from the first session, and we'll get to them in the Q&A. Some of the stuff that felt like there was more to dig into, we can come back to that. So that first quote was very good, actually, that Christine had up. Loyalty has been turned into a perception of discounts. And it's more than that. It's about building deeper relationships with your customers. I like this quote because the loyalty market has two types of people. The ones at the party that are on the wall not talking with anyone, and the ones that are in the party engaging with other people. Brands that have information about their customers are out there walking into the party and engaging with those customers. And brands that don't are standing back and hoping that everything's going to work out for them. It's an important inflection because it is not just online businesses. And for a long time, data was thought to be the purview of online businesses. The loyalty market broadly is huge. There are 3.3 billion memberships in the US. Many of you engaged with one today. You're a member of the Starwood loyalty program. You're a member of the airline program that you flew here on. Perhaps you filled up your rental car or your car. And hopefully, but perhaps not, there was a fuel rewards program. The list goes on and on, whether you went to lunch, breakfast, maybe you experienced a loyalty program today. The convenience store industry is underpenetrated, though, relative to other industries. I don't even have on here restaurants, which are higher, hotels, which are nearly 100%, airlines, even higher. But when you look at grocery, drugstore, and then you look at convenience, this industry's behind in building sophisticated data tools to engage with their customers. And so that's what we want to dig into today. Why is that? What's causing the industry to be behind, and how do we catch up? This is why you should care that you want to catch up. Because 80% of revenue comes from 20% of customers. This is a number that's the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. It's broadly accepted across industries. The data that we've seen more specific to yours is that the top 25% of customers are driving 60+% of revenue. It is a small number of customers that are driving the vast majority of what's going on in your business. If you can't identify who those people are, you're missing out on an opportunity to build those deeper relationships and get them to spend more. Research has shown that a 5% increase in customer retention produces 100% increase in annual profit. And the reason is because acquiring a new customer who has never experienced your brand is harder than getting someone who's already had an experience to come back. It's actually 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer as it is to get an incremental visit out of an existing customer. So when you run the math through, it ends up being a massive hit on profitability to be constantly trying to acquire new customers. This is why loyalty matters so much. And this is true across every industry, But as you can see with the data there, it's particularly true in this industry. You see them if you're working at the store. You see those same customers who come through every single day. It's part of their daily routine. They're in that green category. You see those customers, and you might recognize them if you were there daily. But do the managers recognize them? And are you actually there daily to recognize those people who matter? The answer is generally no. And so that's what you're looking for with a program. Forgive the cartoon, but it helps illustrate the point that there are people walking around and you don't know who they are. And the reality is you have individuals who are very, very different. Some customers are coming daily, some used to come all the time, and they're at risk of leaving you. Whether it's because a competitor opened up nearby, or their travel schedule changed, or their eating schedule changed, or their health has changed, or any number of things. You don't know that their relationship with your brand is changing. Similarly, you don't know when someone showed up for the first time, and are they going to be back? This is the type of information that if you had it, you would treat those customers differently. And so how do we actually get that information? What are the problems? The problems that we have seen convenience stores facing, first and foremost, IT. Restaurants have a big enough problem. Their point of sale is not exactly pleasant to work with, but they have one thing. Convenience stores the number of formats in the convenience store industry is remarkable. And the number of places where people pay, whether you have a car wash, whether you have a restaurant, whether you have fuel or not, the number of places where people pay vary widely. And often each of them have different technologies. Often some of the brands in this industry have been rolled up, and so different technologies were brought together. That makes it even harder. So this is problem number one. Problem number two is for those of you tied to national brands, many of them already are offering some sort of discounts to your consumers. You're not getting any data about that. You're not getting any information about that. But there's already something going on. And the concern is, am I going to be competing with it? Am I going to be collaborating with it? How does that work? Modern consumers are distracted, and we actually use a different word quite often, promiscuous. They like to go to a lot of different places, and they're not generally focused on this concept of loyalty. And we saw some of that data in the last presentation on millennials. Come back to that. But they're distracted, they're hurried, they're looking for something quick and easy. And so asking them to fumble through something that's fairly clunky just because it gets you data is hard. It's hard to make that ask, and it's particularly difficult with millennials. And then the last piece is your day jobs are hard enough. And if I polled all of you right now, I'll bet none of you have data scientists in your business. So what's the point of capturing a whole bunch of data if it's really hard to figure out what to do with it? If you have to cut out some other core function of your job in order to find time to be analyzing data constantly. This is ultimately the problem that a lot of businesses face, because investing in a loyalty program only to capture data and not know what to do with it is pretty intimidating. So these are things that are pretty common, and by the way, many of them are not unique to this industry, though some are certainly worse or made more difficult when you're talking about convenience stores. So what's the opportunity here? The opportunity is really four things, in my opinion. Can we get people to come in more often? First and foremost. Can we lock in their behavior? That's generated either by getting them to come to you instead of someone else a little bit more often, one extra time a week, one extra time a month. That's incremental revenue. Or can you get them to think of their visit to the convenience store as different than they used to think of it? Maybe they're getting coffee elsewhere. Can you convince them that that's a worthwhile trip to your store? Maybe they're squeezing in breakfast elsewhere. can that be part of their routine? Building loyalty can enable you to learn about these customers and figure out what's the right button to push to get them to come in more often. Specific to your world, if you have fuel, is can we convert from pump to convenience store? It's about 35% is the industry number of people who show up, fuel, and go inside. The profit margin difference is massive and makes even a small change to that 35% worth real money to you. So you have a person who's captive at the pump for several minutes. What can you do to get them inside? That can pay for the entire value of investing in this program. That ties to real-time communication. Because if you know they're at the pump and you know where they are, can I talk to them while they're on site and tell them about the right thing that's going to get them in? And the power of the mobile phone is a big element in being able to do that. And then the last is that insight in consumer behavior. Because everyone in this room is going to require some different messaging in order to convince them to change their behavior, to come in one more extra time, or to come into the store when they're at the pump, or to change their route in the morning, to add coffee. Everyone needs something differently, and you need to be able to diagnose those customers. The way Starbucks did this with their loyalty program, they have 7 different profiles that they've broken all their customers into. Now, this is really hard. Starbucks spends $15–20 million a year on their loyalty program. But they've simplified it to, we have the black coffee drinker, we have the weekday warrior, we have the weekend only family, and they can actually tell who these different customers are and communicate with them differently. That's the goal here. That's what we're aspiring to. So the good news is, you saw some of this data just now, your customers are telling you exactly what they want. Here's the convenience and food service study from General Mills. What do customers want? Fast and frictionless sign up for their loyalty program. They're in a hurry, they don't want to waste time. They want some reason to participate. Right? If you don't give them any reason to participate, they're not going to care. They want to be rewarded for the stuff they're doing today. Makes sense. If you tell someone that they have to immediately change their behavior before they get any value out of a program, that doesn't sound very attractive to them. They want to start feeling rewarded for the things that they're already doing. The program needs to remain top of mind, and they want it to feel like it matters who they are. This concept of surprise and exclusive rewards, it's a more difficult one, but it's useful. Okay, so how does that look? That's the question. I'm going to go through 3 examples, and we're going to focus on good ones, first and foremost. We're not going to talk about programs that aren't working and why they're not working. I'm happy to deal with that in Q&A without mentioning names. What are some of the pitfalls? Because a lot of that discussion is valuable, but there's no point we should single out programs, whether they're in this industry or others, that aren't working. So we'll focus on some of the stuff that is working, which are some conclusions that you can draw from your program. Then I'll actually pause and we'll do a couple questions if there are any. Then we'll go into finally some of the stuff that we do at Thanx that's unique, that's useful, that could be relevant for some of you. So this is the big one, Speedway. 5 million memberships since 2004. This would be considered the gold standard generally in the industry. They have a feature-rich mobile application, has digital rewards built in, has gas prices built in, has a wallet, has a variety of functionality as part of the program. When you see quotes that Speedway makes about this program, it is entirely about capturing data and personalizing their interactions with customers. They've actually been successful at driving check sizes up, increasing inside purchasing, and locking down higher visit frequency. The key here is about understanding specific customer groups. And so a core loyalty program that just gives away discounts without doing any sort of data analytics is going to struggle to prove measurable ROI for you. Speedway's program jumped straight to that, and they invested heavily in actually segmenting their customers. Now the challenge here is this program was expensive. I don't know the specifics, but I know in general that it is an expensive program to build and maintain. And not everyone can replicate that. Thornton's, they actually did something interesting as well. They focused on a very simple solution. Because if you're not going to build the complexity of a program that actually segments your customers thoroughly and actually can break them into different groups, the Starbucks example, if you will, then don't try. Doing something halfway is not actually going to benefit you. Focus on simplicity. They have a simple, basic program that is on the mobile phone that you scan. It is largely visit frequency based, and at least they understand how often their customers are coming in. The key to these programs is to scope them appropriately and know what you're going to do about it. And the goal of this program is entirely frequency based. Can I drive those customers back in? It's an interesting analogy for you. The way loyalty works is kind of like consumers running on a racetrack. You want people to get to that home stretch because when they see a reward close, they start running faster. You watch those Olympic athletes, they're running this race, they're running at the same speed, and suddenly they have all this extra energy. That's basically what your consumers will do in a loyalty program. They start sprinting when they're close to a reward. And so keeping it simple, making it easy for them to get around the track is powerful. 7-Eleven went a step further. They say, we got one type of customer. Forget the Starbucks 7 different things. We got one. They're coming in for beverages, and we're going to focus on those people. If you've already spent money on market research, and you already know what that category of customer is that's really a core to your business, you could build a program directly around those people. If you haven't, this is a very hard ask as somewhere to start, right? But by focusing on that category of customers, it makes it easier and it limits the scope of the program. So 3 examples, 3 different ways. One thing that they all share. They're all on mobile phones. The challenge these days of excluding a mobile-focused experience is that a large portion of the customers who are going to make up the vast majority of your spending profile going forward aren't going to participate. And so you can design a program for where things are today, and you can capture some data. But you'll find yourself in the next 3 to 5 years seeing the program decline. And this is the case in every industry that we're working in right now. Literally, whether it is car washes or pizza chains or movie theaters. Designing for today's demographics will make it so that you are behind not 10 years from now, 3 to 5 years from now. So mobile is a key element. We'll talk about how mobile can work and how it can't. I'll just take you down 5 minutes with how our technology works and how it solves some of these problems. And it'll tease up some of the thinking that we have on what a loyalty program needs to look like. These are the 5 things that matter in a C-store loyalty program. The more integration, the longer it's going to take you and the more money it's going to cost you. If you can find a way to cut out significant point-of-sale integration or new hardware, you'll save money, you'll save complexity, and your IT team will thank you. Number 2, it has to drive to measurable ROI. So for those of you that have a program today, there are 3 types of ROI. There's positive ROI. Your program's doing well. Keep doing it, invest in it. It can always get better. There's negative ROI. Obviously, you have a problem and you would cancel that program immediately. But the most common ROI is question mark ROI. And if there's one thing I can tell you, question mark ROI is generally negative ROI when you unpack it, and you should not settle for question mark ROI. You should stop spending money if you have question mark ROI. Because what it generally means is there's some losing money happening that you're not seeing. Has to be mobile-based, we talked about that. And it needs to have automated campaigns. Because at the end of the day, this question of, do you have a data science background in your DNA as a company? The answer is invariably no. And so having someone crunch all that data and try to figure out what to do, having to manually generate these campaigns, it's just not going to happen. And we sell ourselves on this idea of, we'll launch the program, we'll capture the data, we'll figure it out, it'll all be good. And it doesn't end up working. And so we need to work on a program that has automated campaigns that are driven by data. And the last piece is it's got to be a joyful consumer experience. If you're asking consumers to do a lot of pain, I used a program 3 weeks ago where I had to get out my phone, check in, then I had to scan a QR code at the register, and then it was 48 hours later that I found out whether that whole process worked or not. We can design whatever programs we want and think, sure, our consumers will do them. We're rewarding them. Of course they're going to do that. The reality is that's just not the case. If we make consumers jump through hoops, they will break. Remember those 3.3 billion loyalty memberships? 62% are inactive. 62% of loyalty memberships, of people who have taken the time to sign up for a loyalty program, have stopped participating because we've made it too hard on them. And we as consumers are lazy. So it needs to be joyful and effortless. This is the spectrum that you generally see for a loyalty program. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier was punch cards, database lookups, etc. I'll simplify it in two things. There's simple loyalty programs. They're largely considered check-in based programs. You're going to scan something, you're going to check in on your phone, you're going to provide a punch card, whatever it is. These programs are very easy to implement. They're very straightforward and basic. And often, they are better than nothing if you have a way of proving them. The challenge is, if you can't get to ROI, what's the point of having one in the first place? Then there's the robust programs. Super complicated programs. They're generally IT complex. They're generally expensive. They generally require some amount of in-house resourcing. But they'll allow you to do that custom segmentation. This could work if you're prepared to make a company-wide commitment to the importance of loyalty and you want to keep re-upping that commitment every year. But it is quite possible that it will be your largest marketing spend for a while until you have it right, because all of your systems are going to be changing constantly, and your customers won't tolerate, we changed the way we processed our credit cards, we changed our point of sale, we did XYZ, and the system broke. So with that robustness comes those trade-offs. We obviously see ourselves in the middle, building deeper data-driven relationships between the merchant and the consumer, but without a lot of IT hassle. And so I'll walk you through the unique piece of our technology. There are other loyalty vendors here. They have unique elements of theirs, and many of them have great successes. I'll walk you through what we do, but the purpose of this presentation was more broadly to share kind of overall perceptions of what you're looking for when you're structuring a program. We cut out the point of sale entirely. This is something that no one's ever seen before. Through direct partnerships with credit card networks, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, we pull transaction data effortlessly in the background, whether they're at the pump, whether they're at inside the store, whether they're at your car wash. It doesn't matter. We pull that transaction data. All the consumer does is make a purchase with any credit card. We see that information and we can build detailed profiles of who that person is, their lifetime value, how often they're coming in, whether it's weekdays, certain time of day, weekends. The list goes on and on of things that we can do. We can deliver in real time notifications and rewards straight to their mobile phone. Now talk about some of the principles we laid out before. There is no hassle of integration. There's a joyful experience where the consumer pays as usual and does nothing else. We're leveraging mobile for real-time engagement. And, most importantly, all of those automated campaigns are done on behalf of our customers. We have the ability to segment automatically spend, visit frequency, time of day, day of week, seasonality, ultimately which terminals they're going to, who they were working with, and in many cases, what they were buying. We can automate those campaigns so you can drive the morning customer to later into the evening to see if you can get an incremental visit out of them. So you can drive the person who's at the pump who just dipped their credit card with a real-time notification. By the way, we're running a highly targeted special for you inside the store right now. Would you like to go in? Why? Because we saw that authorization without ever interfacing at the pump. So we know that they're there. That real-time notification can actually get them to come in, and we can measure specifically, does that consumer use that offer to come in? And does it change their normal spending behavior? And so we run a variety of campaigns, VIP programs, what we call win-back, which is churn management, and they have some pretty gaudy ROI numbers. 30+% increase in check size, 80% increase in visits frequency, 40% recapture rate. This is the way we measure our programs. I'm going to be honest, not every program delivers those types of numbers. Some are delivering 8% increases in frequency. Pressure's on us then to make sure that that's paying for the value of the program, and that's how we report our success. And so no matter who you're working with in building your program, the measure of success is we're spending money on the technology, we're spending money on the rewards we're giving consumers. Are we seeing more incremental revenue than that cost consistently month in, month out? That's the measure. And then the last piece, I'll generalize. You can see an image here on the right of a net promoter score. When you have real time and you're on mobile, you can do some interesting things. You can deliver real-time promotions at the pump, like I mentioned, because their mobile phone is on them at all times. Whether we like to admit it or not, it's always there. Millennials in particular are not more than a foot from their mobile phone for 23.8 hours per day. So they're always on their phone. We solicit real-time feedback right after they make a purchase because loyalty is not about just discounts. It's about how was your experience. It's about can we do something better next time. It's about getting that message in real time from a valuable customer who comes in weekly, who says, I love you guys, but the bathroom was a mess today. What a wonderful piece of information to know in real time, tied to a transaction, tied to a specific customer. These are the types of things that are happening in other industries that are now being brought to convenience. And this is the expectation that you can set for this industry of where you want it to go. And so the last thing that we do as a result, and then we'll move on to kind of the key takeaways, is these ability to do real-time push notifications also has the ability to cut out the normal pain of redemption. We can actually push statement credits directly back to the consumer's credit card. We can do it for any specific amount on any specific trigger that you want. And so the couponing potential with your vendors to encourage certain purchases that they wouldn't make otherwise and push that discount back without having to do specific coupon codes. We do coupon codes. We're happy to do them, but it's not the only option. We can actually push those discounts back to the credit card. That's all because of mobile. So I'll leave you with this and then we'll move on to Q&A. Installing hardware at the point of checkout should always be a watch out. It's something that can break. It's something that's difficult. So you should be careful. That doesn't mean don't do it, but be careful. We're beyond the days of customers carrying plastic cards. It's crazy. Many of us still have them in our wallet, but they are declining. We are seeing a sharp decline, and if you are catching up now and building a program now that's plastic card based, you're going to find that it's outdated very quickly. Programs that are built around blanket discounts that are untargeted, loyalty programs where everyone gets the same thing are going to cost you a lot of money. You can give out a lot in discounts, and it's going to take you a while until you can figure out what works. Design a program that's structured around who your unique customers are. If you're collecting data and you're not using the data, it's useless. You shouldn't be paying for the data. And then the last piece is on mobile. It's all about mobile. At the end of the day, having a mobile app, however, is not a check-the-box feature. So I don't want the takeaway from this to be rush out, and as long as we have a mobile app, we're good to go. I have spoken to some very well-known brands in this space who regret the rush that they put into their mobile app. Because once it's out, there is now an expectation from the consumer that it's always there and that it works. And it pains them when they look in the App Store and they have 1.5 stars. And now they're deploying massive resources to fixing the mobile app that they rushed out, which is costing them more than doing it right originally. So there is a continuum. You don't want to be skittish getting in, but also you don't want to rush in. And the last point there we've talked about, but design around a specific category of customer. You have VIPs. Every one of you has VIPs that look a little different. Find out who they are and build your program around those people, because they're driving such a core portion of your revenue that they're the ones that are going to make a difference if you can get them coming back in. If you generalize your program and assume it's going to have an impact on everyone, it makes it harder for the program to have any impact at all.